It is Wednesday night, so we are so excited to be back for a really fun episode of Wind Down Wednesday. So grab whatever you need. You might want to grab a piece of paper and a pen, but you might not need it. All kinds of details coming at you in about 30 seconds. I'm so excited. Maggie, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Carly. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm like already at a point where I'm like, this Friday is September. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like that's crazy because my birthday is August 1st, and I feel like that was just like 2 days ago.
Yes,
So
right?
for it to be almost September 1st is mind-blowing.
Yes, I don't know how that happened and how we got here so quickly. I feel like August is one of those weird months, though. Like it can both last forever, but also go by really quickly. And I think it's just because of the hustle and bustle of back to school season for everybody. But whew, September.
Yeah.
We're right here.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So are you a pumpkin spice latte person?
I am not, only because I don't drink coffee. So I'm not a coffee person. I'm more of like a Diet Coke to get my caffeine person if I need it.
Yep.
So I am not super into the pumpkin spice.
See, I like pumpkin flavored things, but I don't like pumpkin flavored coffee. And so like I saw a whole bunch of folks talking about it online because it started back at a lot of the coffee shops, like,
Yep.
woo, we've got it back. And everyone's like, yeah. And I'm like, I just can't. Like, I'll have a pumpkin muffin. Like, that's great. I'll do that.
Well, and I went to Walgreens today and all of their like Halloween candy is out. And I'm like, that's too much, guys. Too much.
Yes, it's too much. Holy cow. Oh my gosh. And it's wild too, because I feel like this is like the week where I go in and I buy all the school supplies that are like clearanced out. I probably have missed it already. Like, because they're like, nope, it's time for Halloween. Let's go.
I mean, their school supply at my Walgreens, their school supply section was cleared out and it was replaced with all candy.
Oh, see, I might have waited too long this year. I might
Which
have
is
to go.
crazy because school just started.
Yes, like it just started, and some people aren't even back yet. Like they'll wait until after Labor Day. Oh, this is wild. This is wild. All right, so folks, if you are joining us live, if you still see school supplies out and about, let us know in the comments because I feel like I waited a little too long. But can I show you what I got before we hop into our topic?
Please.
Because this is the coolest thing. I ordered a Lisa Frank folder, and it's like a vintage one. It said on the listing, it's like from one of those like Poshmark and Merc. I don't know how to say the other one. It starts with an M.
That's incredible quality for a used folder.
I was like, oh. So I bought it. Was like $5. I was like, I'm buying it. I need it.
Did it come with a trapper keeper?
It did not. It did not. But you know what? I started to look because I was like, now I'm curious. Now I've gone down this rabbit hole of like, what other things can I find? The Lisa Frank, like Trapper Keeper styles thing, they're like $80, $90. I'm like, what? I need to like go to the basement. Isn't that nuts?
That's crazy.
Oh, so wild. Well, I'm so excited to chat with you tonight about this topic, which is like just sharing some new books and some favorite books with multilingual and multicultural characters. So like, I feel like we could do this every week and we still probably can't cover all of our favorites.
I mean, I have so many books piled next to me just in case this goes 4.5 hours, that I'm set.
Yes.
So I could do several sessions of this.
I love it. I love it. Well, and I know our colleague Michelle, she has like a whole session. I know you have a really great session on wordless picture books that like it's a hot session. Everybody always signs up for that. Like it always gets a whole lot of buzz. And then Michelle, I know, is doing one, or maybe it's already passed on just like great books to start the year. So we love books at the IRC.
I mean, it's a problem for me because I don't even have kids. And so I can't even share these with like anyone. So I'm always like bringing these books over to my nephews' houses and being, and saying like, hey, do you want to read a book with me? And they're not interested because they're too little for that. But I love them and I feel just better having them.
Yes. Yes. I like having my own copy. Like I want to hold it in my hands and like give it a hug.
Well,
I love it.
And sometimes like my public library doesn't have copies of these. And so in order to even see them, I need to buy them, which is how I justify it to myself.
Yes. Same. All right. So do you want to kick us off? Maybe we'll go back and forth. And share just a few of our current favorites, or old favorites or new favorites, all of these.
So this one isn't a brand new one, and this is probably going to be reversed or something, but it's Marisol McDonald, Does It Match? And it's a bilingual book in English and Spanish, but I love it because it's about a little girl named Marisol McDonald, and she's Peruvian and Scottish. And so she says like her hair and her freckles don't match. Like her clothes don't match. She likes peanut butter and jelly burritos, so that doesn't match. And so people always are saying like, well, why don't you just match? And so she tries to match, one day, and it's just such a boring day for her. And then her teacher tells her like, but I love that you don't match. I love that you're yourself. And so she like learns that like it's okay to be myself and it's okay that I don't match because that's me. And so it's not a new book, but it's one of my favorites that I just love because I think even if you're not, bilingual or bicultural, you always students always have a thing where they feel like they're not fitting in perfectly. And I think that's just a universal message that like just being you is great. Yes. And so that's why I just love that book.
Oh, that is like perfect book to kick us off. Oh, so good. So I'll kind of share mine. This one reminds me of yours because it's kind of like that idea of living in between two spaces or two pieces of who we are. And so this book is called Drawn Together. And this is a really it kind of makes you cry a little bit because it talks about the relationship between a child and their grandparent. And it talks about how they don't have a shared language. And they both still have, such love and such a connection with each other. And so they start to draw pictures back and forth as a way to strengthen their relationship. But I'm like, gosh, this is so beautiful. And I think I think this is a picture book that can hit almost every grade level because how many of ourselves and our families have encountered generational language loss. And so I think and I haven't seen too many books that address that. So I love it. I thought it was so cool. So it's called Drawn Together.
Oh, that's a fantastic one. I'm going to have to add that to my list.
Yes.
Well, I'll piggyback off of that relationship between a child and their grandparent. And this one is called The Most Beautiful Thing. And this is a great book. It talks about a little girl, and her name is Kalia. And she's kind of frustrated because when she wants ice cream, she gets ice cubes. When she wants a new dress, her mom gives her a couple cents for candy. when she wants braces, they can't afford it. And she gets really like down on herself and her family about like, why can't I get what I want? But then her grandma, when she wants the braces and can't get them, her grandma, who has like one tooth left, says like, well, don't you think my smile is beautiful? And Kayla remembers all the times they had when her grandma smiled to her and all the good, like all the memories they had. And she said, yes, it is beautiful. And she goes, so maybe it isn't, like that you need braces right now. Maybe it isn't that, like, that's not what the most beautiful thing about you is. So I think that one's a great one about, just like, recognizing that, sometimes you don't get what you want, but sometimes it's not the most important thing.
Yes. Oh, that's a really powerful message. Oh, wow. What a beautiful story. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm trying to find one that kind of connects to that, but I'm like out of my pile. I don't know if I have a good transition one. So I'm going to pop over to this one. And I don't know. So this is called Jefferson, actually. And you'll notice like the J in Jefferson is crossed off and there's a Y in its place. So it's Jefferson, right? It's pronounced Jefferson. So I can't remember when this one. Okay, so 2021, but it's new to me. And it's another one of those great books that we always talk about, like the importance of our names and pronouncing our names correctly. And I thought this was such a cool lens for kind of that topic, because the J and the Y sound from English to Spanish, right? It's a little bit different. And so, he goes to school, they call him Jefferson instead of Jefferson. And then he shares, what happened at home. And they're like, well, what did you say? And he's like, well, I didn't say anything. And they're like, well, what can you say? So he's like, all right, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna say, actually, it's Jefferson. And so it's really cool. And then the whole book, like, they kind of goes through all the different social interactions. And then he's like, helping his friends pronounce his name correctly. And at the very end, I shouldn't give it away, but another friend joins the class with the same pattern in her name. And he's like, and I feel confident. I know I'm going to say her name correctly. Like, it's just so good. So I really, really love this one. And it's not a new book, but it was new to me. So loved it.
Oh, that's a great one. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background. She's very into books. She wants to share that with everyone. I think that's such an important message, though, for every kid to have that. I mean, that's like almost your first kind of self-advocacy.
Yeah.
And I remember even when I went into first grade at a new school, like for the first 3 or 4 weeks, I wrote my name, Margaret, on all of my papers. And like when my papers started coming home, finally my mom said, like, do they not allow you to be Maggie? Like, and I go, oh, I've never told them, because I didn't want to correct anyone. I didn't want to correct the teacher and tell them like, oh no, you're wrong. My name is Maggie.
Right.
And she was like, do they not let you be Maggie? And I was like, oh, I didn't tell them that, because I didn't want to correct them. And so she was like, but it's your name. You can tell someone your name. Like, that's okay. And so like, I remember in first grade, I don't know if it matters to the story, but my teacher was a nun and she wore the full habit. So all you could see was like her face, and she was all in black. So it was very intimidating, I think, for a 6-year-old.
Absolutely.
And so I remember like gathering all my courage, and like she was like, Margaret, and I was like, actually my name is Maggie. And she was like, okay. It was such a non-issue, but it like in my head, like when you're little, you build that up in your head and you kind of want to go with whatever's the easiest. And so I think that's like one of the first, pieces of self-advocacy we can teach our kids. Like, you can have your own name.
Yes.
You can tell people what to call you.
Yes, absolutely. Oh gosh. And I love that you shared that too, because like, I think those personal stories, like I think a lot of us have had experiences like that, but like how fearful we are, right? Like, even like, from family to family, it's so different. Like correcting adults, like, in some families, you don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
when what I know when I had students and like, I remember I had a student, Aaron, and when he introduced, he was like, I'm Aaron. I was like, okay. I go, what do they call you at home? And he goes, Aaron. And I go, well, what do you want me to call you? And he goes, Aaron. And I go, okay, then let's talk about that. Like I can help you tell your teacher that that's your name.
yeah.
And so sometimes they just need a little boost, like,
Yeah.
like I can stand next to you when you tell someone that, like, that's okay.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Like this is a very reasonable thing. And I'm going to help
Mm-hmm.
you with some confidence to do that. Like I've got your back in that effort.
Right.
Oh,
And I mean, in my experience, most teachers are fine with it. Like it's mostly like little kids don't want, like, not wanting to correct an adult, but
yes.
it's almost like, they're like, oh, I'll call you whatever you want,
Yeah.
sure.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Totally. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
All right. So my next book is called Watercress. Let's see, I'll put it here. And in this story, there's a girl who's of Chinese descent. Her parents are from China, and I think she lives in Ohio. And they're driving along like a rural road in Ohio, and they see watercress on the side of the road. So the family stops, and they all get out to pick the watercress for like dinner that night because you can forage that, and that's a great vegetable. And she is mortified. Like with every car that passes her, she's like, I hope that's not someone in my class. I hope that's not someone that knows me, that sees me foraging for food, on the road. And she gets kind of like, she's not angry, but she's just, like disappointed in her family, and she's embarrassed. And when they're eating their watercress for dinner that night, she is talking about, her family's talking, and her mom says, her parents share that like when they were in China, there was, a famine, and, they had to forage for food. And it was such an important part of their life, and that's what helped them survive. And she shared that story, and she shared pictures of her family. And then the girl kind of realized that, like, what is the reason that we're doing this? Yeah. And realize, like, we're starting new memories here. We're starting new traditions here about it. So I think not everyone has the experience of like parents pulling over to harvest food on the highway, but everybody has the experience of being embarrassed by something and having to understand what's behind that. Yeah. And realizing that. So I think, yes, it's like a story about a multicultural child, but also I think it's very generalizable to a lot of students.
Absolutely. I think a lot of kids, a lot of adults will resonate with that message for sure. Oh, that's beautiful. And it's called Watercress is the title?
Watercress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I love that. Love that. Okay. This next book, this one was new to me this year, and it's called Wishes. And like, can we just talk about the illustration? Like, just on the cover. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. But the inside jacket reads, and it's like, ooh, if you had to leave everything behind and travel by boat across rocky waters to find safe harbor, what would you wish for? And so the whole book is talking about kind of leaving behind a place and space that has been your home for your whole life, and then having to take a journey and start somewhere new. So, I mean, again, this is like a picture book, and like I always say, like picture books are for every age. But I mean, just the themes that are brought forward in this text, it's just so moving and so powerful and like raw and emotional. It's just a gorgeous book. So I really love it, but it is I feel like it's a little heavier of a text Even though there's not so many words in it, but it is definitely a heavier, more emotional text.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you could probably go a lot of directions with it. You could probably go a little more surface level for younger students and a little, deeper for older students.
Yes.
Which is my favorite kind of book.
Yes, right. That's the best. It works for everybody.
All right, so I'm going to move into more of a middle grade book because I feel like we pay a lot of attention to picture books, but there's some great middle grades and young adult books. So this one is called Lupe Wong Won't Dance, and it's about a Chinese Mexican girl. And at the beginning of the story, if she gets straight A's, she gets to meet her idol, which is a professional pitcher, who is also Chinese and Mexican. So it's someone who she identifies with. So she is just dying to meet this baseball pitcher, another female baseball pitcher, I should say. And so, I mean, she really identifies with her. And then, so she's on track to get the straight A's, but then she gets into PE and they're doing square dancing. And she doesn't want to square dance. And she's very uncomfortable with it. And she doesn't want to do it. And this really threatens her, this is the one threat to her getting straight A's and getting to meet her idol. So the book goes with her kind of, going through her identity and what she's comfortable with and really coming to terms with all of that. So I think this is a great book again, another book about a multicultural student, but an identity that I think most, young or preteens have, teenagers have about, not fitting in and having to, kind of negotiate that and all that uncomfortableness. Yes. I think that really resonates with a lot of people.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I'm adding that one to my cart tonight. That does sound really good, but you're right. It hits on so many different layers of recognizing all the different spaces of who we are and where do I fit in with all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay. So this next one is a picture book, but I'm going to tell you, I feel like this picture book is written for middle school and high school audiences.
Okay.
And this one is Separate is Never Equal. So I am a huge fangirl of all things Duncan Tonatiuh, always and forever. He's an amazing author. He's an amazing illustrator, but I think his work is just so cool and his style of illustrations is so cool. And every time he writes it
was in my pile too.
I love it. It's just so good. Every time he writes a new book, I'm floored. And he always he'll load it up. So not only does he tell the story, but he'll include more information. And so this one is a historical text. So if you're a middle school teacher, if you're a secondary teacher, this is this is your guy. You need to write his name down and just buy all of his books right now. Thank us later. But this is the story of Sylvia Mendez and her family's fight for desegregation in schools. And so again, it's, true story, all of these things, but I do want to share what the author's note kind of looks like. So at the end of the book, he will share more information to give some context, give some additional context. So sometimes he'll include pictures, sometimes he'll include more details about the person's life. He also includes a glossary, a bibliography, a little mini index. So he just loads up all of his text. But for this particular story about Sylvia Mendez and her life, like I think there's so many great like chapter book pairings that would go with this. And I'm trying to remember, I can't remember the name of it, but I'll link it. And we didn't even tell them about the document. Ooh. I'll let you share about it because it was your creation. Is really, really cool. But this would be such a cool companion text to any time, if you are studying this issue, or if you're studying this period of time, this would be a really cool text. And then to discuss too, like, what do we still see today? Like, are there still, problems in our communities or in our areas that we, should be aware of? It could just lead to so much good dialogue. So I'm forever a fangirl of Duncan, though not you, forever.
I mean, it's so great. And like, think about like what a great conceptual preview that is for older students. Like, let's open it up. It's a little less stakes. It's more accessible to people. Let's talk about the concept before we dive into more complex texts or more complex, resources. I just think it's fantastic.
Yes. So good. So good.
All right. Let's see. What do I have? I mean, I kind of want to call an audible and go with a different one, only because it's similar to what you said. It's not by the same author. It's by Rob Sanders, but it's called Peaceful Fights for Equal Rights.
Ooh.
And it's very simple, and maybe I'll open up a page to show you. But it is just different ways that you can fight for equal rights. So you can chant or cheer or call someone or campaign or camp out, or you can knit a hat. And so it's not there, it's not very, I like it because it's not very political, like on one side or the other, but it's saying like, if you see injustice, like what can you do? Which I think, if students are listening to the news or they're, paying attention to things, like they may think like, well, what can I do? Yes. And so this kind of gives really actionable ideas for kids that are simple, that what they can do if they see someone being, discriminated against.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. What was the name of the book again?
Rob Sanders.
Okay. Awesome. Oh, I like that because it's not just about, like making a sign and protesting, right? Like that's maybe one example that they see over and over again, but there's all these different ways to use our voices and express our ideas and show our support and for a multitude of causes and beliefs and things like that. I love it. Right. That's amazing. All right. I'm going to share. I have one last one to share for tonight. And this one is for grown-ups, for educators. And so this one is called If You Only Knew. And then the subtitle is Letters from an Immigrant Teacher. And this was written by Emily Francis, who is just the best and like the coolest. But oh my goodness. So the way that this story or the way that this text is laid out is it's really, really cool because she is sharing her own experiences, but she's like interweaving these letters to students that she has served, and she shares elements of their stories, and like she shares connections between their stories and her stories, and all the things, like the little things that she notices, all the gifts and the wonderful attributes that all of her students possess. But it's just the way that it's like wound and just like packaged so beautifully. And like, goodness, like every teacher would just find so much power in all of these stories. But yeah, it's just beautiful. If you only knew.
Yeah, that's a great one. I know, like I've seen so many people talk about it, like on Twitter or things like that. Like I know it, like a lot of people have really resonated with that book.
Yes. Oh, so good.
So before, I know we're kind of close to time being up, but before we go, scrolling underneath is a URL to the list of all the books that Carly and I talked about tonight. And so if you want to check this, plus more that we didn't even have time to talk about, check out that URL. Or if you're having trouble grabbing it, just always send me or Carly an email and we can definitely get you that list. But we wanted you to have more than enough things, because I think one of the best parts of like starting the school year is like refreshing your classroom library and like getting some new stuff for students to look at. So that, at least for me, that was always my favorite part.
Yes, it's the best. It's absolutely the best. Oh. I love it. And I love, and really appreciate the way, Maggie, that you laid out this document that we're sharing, because it's got like all these different recommendations, but it's color coded, which I'm like, genius.
I mean, when I was in the classroom, I always had like this set of 20 different dry erase markers, 20 different color dry erase markers, so that I could color code all the things I wrote on the board and all my notes and my agenda and stuff. So color coding is kind of a passion for me.
Yes, I love it. You know me, I love colors.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, do you want to share one last text with us?
Sure, I will do a young adult novel because we haven't done one yet. This is Firekeeper's Daughter. Okay. And honestly, I'm still going through it. Like I'm still in the middle of it, but I love it so far. And what it is it's a story about a Native American girl, an Ojibwe girl, and she is she just couldn't find her way in high school, like couldn't find a place to fit in. But she's like thinking like, when I go to college, I'm going to fit in. But then her mom gets sick, so she has to stay home and take care of her mom. But she finds a boy she likes, but the boy is like hiding something. And so it's kind of a mystery. I mean, it is a mystery. And then when she becomes kind of like wrapped up in something, and she becomes like an informant for the FBI because she knows a lot about like the community, but also about Ojibwe traditional medicine. Yeah. And I haven't gotten to the part, but the part in the book says like, as the deaths keep piling up and as like the mystery keeps deepening, she finds herself trying to get out of it. So I'm super excited to finish it.
Oh, that sounds like a page turner.
Yes. And you know what? The thing is, it's been on my to be read list. Like it's been on my shelf for a long time. And I just started it this summer. And I'm like, oh man.
Yes.
Like, I can't believe I waited this long for this one.
Oh, I love when that happens. I love those books. I know, but I know what you mean about the to be read pile. And then I'm like, I'm not going to order any more books until I get through. No, I always order more.
Says me who ordered a book today.
Yes. I know. Oh my goodness. Well, Maggie, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight and talking about books. Like, this is the best. But everyone who is either tuning in live with us or catching the replay, you can check out that URL, that bit.ly link. And you can access all of the books we've talked about tonight and so much more. So thank you so much, everybody. And we hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. And we'll catch you next week for Wind Down Wednesday. Night, everyone.
Bye.